There's nothing better than a day of fishing followed by a delicious prawn feast. With so many great spots across the coast, there's no shortage of places to catch prawns. The last month or so has seen an abundance of prawns and other baitfish in local waters, making it the perfect time to take advantage of the great fishing the Sunshine Coast has to offer. Prawning is a fun and rewarding experience for all ages, making it a great weekend or holiday activity for adults and children alike. The easiest way to find out where they're hiding is to look for a boat fishing for them. Where there are prawns, there's a boat. All you need is a net and a little enthusiasm. The best time to catch prawns on the Sunshine Coast is generally from February to the end of May, but this is very dependent on weather conditions and rainfall. Creeks and rivers benefit from heavy rainfall, which brings fresh water into the estuary and increases the salinity of the water, creating an optimal environment for crayfish. Crayfish are largely nocturnal, and are most active after sunset or before sunrise. Their activity levels are also dependent on the tides, moon phase and weather conditions, so it's worth checking out your local bait and tackle shop or chatting to other anglers for the latest information on the area you're targeting. Crayfish like to move around in the dark, so nights around a new moon or cloudy evenings are ideal times to catch crayfish. Old fishermen and women will tell you that the new moon after a rain is the ideal time to catch crayfish. Crayfish tend to congregate in deep holes in the hours before and after low tide. If you are fishing for shrimp in a creek fed by a river, the first tide in the morning is your best bet, as shrimp tend to move quickly with the tide at that time of day. Try fishing on the outgoing tide in creeks and rivers, or when the tide changes in open water. If you are on land, try your luck around piers, bridges or other structures with lights. You will spot the red glow of their eyes if they are close. You can also use a flashlight to spot them in the water at night. While you may be lucky enough to spot them on the surface, you are more likely to find them in deeper water. If you are fishing from a boat with a sounder, shrimp usually appear as small, scattered dots, often in a cloud-like pattern. They tend to move in large schools, which can appear as long or arc shapes on the detector screen, depending on their depth and density. Once you've hit the sweet spot, you'll know it, your detector will be flooded. A quality cast net is your best friend when it comes to catching shrimp. We recommend choosing a top pocket cast net, as the design allows the shrimp to swim into the net, making it easy to drop them into the bucket and retrieve the net for another cast. Learning how to cast a cast net can be difficult, so make sure you practice before attempting to catch shrimp, as reaction time is key. The quicker you can cast the net after spotting him, the better your chances of filling your net. Once you've caught the shrimp, dip them in a mixture of salt water and ice. If you're not planning on eating them right away, you can keep the shrimp unpeeled by freezing them in a container filled with water. The ice will help preserve the prawns and keep them fresh. Prawning can be a fun and rewarding activity for anyone who loves fishing and seafood. The Sunshine Coast is home to some fantastic prawning spots, providing a great opportunity to explore the natural wonders of our region. So pack your nets, head to one of our beautiful waterways, and with a little luck you may just land a great catch. There are many different types of tools and methods for catching shrimp. Each requires some experience and skill. Practice makes perfect. It goes without saying that you can't always go out and catch a new species and fill your cooler. The first time I targeted red grouper around the inshore waters near Surf City, North Carolina, it took me 9 frustrating, fishless days before I figured it out. Now, I can count on catching a few for dinner every time I go fishing. Shrimp fishing is no exception. Get familiar with some of the shrimping tools in this section and you'll increase your chances of landing a big catch. Commercial shrimp fishing boats. While commercial shrimping can produce a bumper crop, it's a learned craft and not an activity for tourists or recreational anglers. These anglers are highly experienced in a physically demanding and often dangerous job. While this is not an activity for recreational fishermen, I have included a video released by the Southern Shrimp Alliance that is both informative and entertaining. Cast nets are circular nets with weight distributed around the perimeter. They are designed to be thrown and retrieved multiple times and are very effective at catching fish, shrimp, or bait. The net is thrown by hand so that it spreads out in the air before falling into the water and sinking to the target species. Cast nets are typically made from nylon or rope and common sizes range from 4 to 12 feet in diameter, although cast nets can be purchased in sizes of 20 feet or larger. A rope is attached to the net at one end and tied to your wrist at the other end. The mesh size of the net is typically between 3/8 and 3/4 of an inch. Your target species, as well as the regulations in your area, will help you determine what mesh size is best. Cast nets can be cast from boats, piers and docks, from shore, or while wading in the water. One of the main questions I get asked is, what size net is best to cast? There are many factors that determine this answer: the strength of the caster, the target species, the depth of the water, the skill of the caster, etc. My best answer is, the size you can cast best. There is no need to kill yourself by casting a large net if all you can throw are bananas. Practice at home on a chair, boat, or picnic table and your experience on the water will be more productive. Watch this video on how to cast a shrimp net. Seine nets. One of my fondest memories as a child is of weeks spent vacationing with my family in Garden City, SC. My grandfather was an avid outdoorsman and had many cousins and uncles who were always up for wildlife adventures. Seine netting is an old, traditional method that is not used as much as it was when I was a kid in the early 1980s. Seine nets consist of a piece of wire mesh that is rimmed at each end with a 6 to 8 foot long wooden or fiberglass pole. The mesh between the poles is typically 6 feet high with small floats along the top line and weights along the bottom line to hold it tight to the creek or ocean bottom. Seine nets vary in size, but the average is about 6 feet high and 30 feet long. These nets are pulled through low-tide creeks or near shore with one person at each end pole. Dip nets are very similar to regular fishing nets, however, they are usually smaller in mesh size and can be equipped with a long pole or handle. Dip nets can be used from boats, under blocks and bridges, or even when the angler wades through shallow water. Dip nets are used to catch shrimp that can be seen as they drift through the upper water column. Often, blue lights are used at night to attract shrimp and aid visibility. This is a very popular tool for shrimping in Florida off bridges and retaining walls in all seasons, including winter. Check out the following dip net video: shrimp traps or crawfish pots. These names are often used interchangeably, such as shrimp and crawfish. There are some slight variations in appearance and design, but for the purposes of this article, we will refer to them as shrimp traps. The best way to describe a shrimp trap is as a miniature version of a crab trap. Typically, the trap is square or rectangular with multiple entrances where shrimp can enter but not exit. There is an area for bait. We will discuss our top shrimp trap baits later in this article. The wire mesh is much smaller than a crab trap, so the shrimp cannot escape. A lead line is attached to the top of the shrimp trap that can be secured to a buoy, dock, bridge, or the side of your boat. Make sure you check your local regulations regarding the appropriate permits for using a shrimp trap. It is also important that your trap is marked with certain identification tags that link the shrimp trap to you. Check out this great overview of a common type of shrimp trap. When do they bite? What are you catching them with? What are the weather conditions like? Is there any wind? Is the water clear or a little murky? Have you noticed the water temperature? What depth are you catching the most shrimp at? Are there any boats around you that are having success? There are many rules of shrimp fishing besides the endless list when it comes to conditions. Shrimp are migratory but spend a lot of time during certain months of the year along the coast and most estuary systems. They are easily found in small inlets and larger bays feeding on shallow flats. Most of these areas are relatively shallow, allowing you to catch shrimp with a trawl, purse seine, or any of the previously mentioned tools. A good place to start is to experiment with trawling in various small tidal inlets until you find the areas with the best concentrations. Then you will need to refine your skills to maximize your catch. Another factor to consider when deciding where to put shrimp is paying attention to water conditions. By conditions, we mean water clarity or salinity. Pink shrimp prefer clear water, brown shrimp prefer deeper water with more colored water, and white shrimp prefer shallower water and are more tolerant of lower salinities than their relatives. Regardless of the type of shrimp, they all have preferred water conditions that will greatly assist the angler in removing large amounts of unproductive water. When considering the best time to go shrimping, it is important to check your local tide forecast. A useful rule of thumb with tidal waters is that, when there is less water, there are fewer places for fish to hide. In other words, the hours before and after low tide are best for recreational shrimping by hand, as the shrimp tend to be more concentrated. Call your local bait and tackle shop or check the newspaper for the current tide schedule in your area. Plan your trip around low tide so you can focus on the intertidal zones. Shrimping at night or during a full moon is often more productive. Take extra precautions when planning a night trip. Even areas you think are familiar can seem very hazy at night. It is often difficult to navigate at night, and even familiar areas can be quite disorienting, especially when shrimping from a boat. I have lost more than one acquaintance in boating accidents, including my great-grandfather. Always respect the dangers of the water and know your limits. Have fun shrimping, but be safe on the water. As discussed, tides and daylight can play a big role in shrimping success. Mother Nature controls the wind, currents, rainfall, and temperature. Shrimp are less affected by these variables than humans, but for success and safety, it is crucial to carefully consider weather conditions and forecasts when planning a trip. Water is dangerous enough when conditions are perfect. Ideally, we want to plan a shrimping trip that balances water clarity, tides, and weather conditions so we can focus on what is most important, catching shrimp in optimal conditions while always keeping safety in mind. It is important to note that shrimp are very sensitive to light. They are often found in shallower water than usual on cloudy days. There are also many different types of shrimp. Seafood harvesting is always a highlight of a cruise on the British Columbia coast. With a coastline carved by many majestic fjords, the deep bays are the ideal environment for a healthy population of Pandalus platykeros, also known as Pacific or spotted shrimp. This Pacific coast delicacy is a hit with seafood connoisseurs. British Columbia spotted shrimp have a wonderful flavor and texture. Their sweet, delicate lobster-like flavor makes them a favorite for grilling, steaming, or peeling and eating. Thanks to these culinary qualities, spotted shrimp are the most popular of all shrimp and are part of a robust commercial fishery. And because they live at reasonable depths in large enough numbers, recreational fishing is highly sought after by boaters looking to try their luck. Since all harvested tiger prawns are caught in nets, a sustainable fishing method with relatively low bycatch and habitat damage, they are considered an ocean-friendly seafood choice. The spotted prawn is the largest species of prawn caught on the Pacific West Coast, growing to 9 to 12 inches in length and ranging from Alaska to Baja California. They are easily recognized by their size and deep pink, red or pink, orange body with white lines on their heads and 2 pairs of white spots on their tails. These giant shrimp live on rocky seafloors at depths of up to 1,500 feet, where they hide from predators and feed on other shrimp, plankton, small mollusks, worms, sponges, and dead organic matter. Being hermaphrodites, they spend the first part of their lives as males and then undergo a sex change in midlife, transitioning to females for the duration of their lives. As females, they often have 2 or more broods before dying. To maintain shrimp populations, it is imperative to release egg-bearing females. Eggs are usually laid by females from October to March. Traps come in all shapes, sizes, and materials. There are round, rectangular, and square box traps, and even igloo-shaped traps. They can be covered with plastic, synthetic, or wire mesh. Most fishing and marine supply stores sell a variety of crawfish traps. Two types to consider are full-frame round traps that stack or, if storage space is limited, rectangular box traps that fold flat. The better traps have marine-grade stainless steel frames with 3 one-way conical entrances for round traps and 4 entrances for rectangular box traps. If the trap you purchase does not come with a weight, suggest installing a weight so that the trap does not move when placed on the bottom and you do not have to search for it when it is time to retrieve it. 10 pounds of lead fixed to the trap will do the job. Also, if the trap moves when placed on the seabed, the movement will spook the crawfish and limit your catch. Since the crawfish trap is set in deep water, you will need 400 to 450 feet of 5/16 diameter lead line, which will hang almost vertically from a red or orange fluorescent buoy large enough not to sink in the current. Sinking lines are important to keep passing boats from getting tangled, and possibly damaged. The buoy should be marked with your name and phone number in 3-inch letters and numbers. There are as many bait options as there are boaters. Shrimp feed on scent and are not picky about what they like to eat. It is important to provide a bait that will quickly become scented in the water column to attract shrimp to your trap. Bait options include fresh herring, salmon, sardines, or mackerel. A better alternative is to use commercially available shrimp pellets. They are made from fresh fish, fish meal, and fish oil. Using pellets is less messy than using fresh bait. Many recreational shrimpers like to add commercially prepared fish oil to the pellets, which enhances the scent carried by the water from the trap, making it easier for the shrimp to find the bait. Some also add a can of seafood cat food to the mix. It is recommended that the mixture be made the day before and stored on ice in an airtight container, which will help the pellets absorb the oil and avoid staining the boat. Although convenient, the pellets and fish oil are very fishy, so avoid getting them on your hands or on the floor of the boat.